Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of AI Unleashed. And today we're going to be talking about the role of AI in sales. And we are joined today by Maria Andrade from A Planet, who is the global head of sales. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure is all mine. And we've done this before, haven't we? We've been on webinars and things before. So
we have. Yep. So just so everybody watching knows, we met a few years ago. I was working at a different company, sales job as well, a SaaS company. So yep. It's been a long road and an enjoyable one too.
it has. It's been really good. And we continue to have interesting things to discuss. So I think it's one of the signs not only of the exciting times that we are in, but also the synergy between our roles and the things that we do and the overlap that we have. So it's always an interesting discussion. And today, last time we were kind of talking around the idea of SaaS in a different space. So we were looking at learning and development. We were looking at game-based things. But now I want to focus a little bit more on the concept of disruption. So we have had the AI disruption for the last 3 years or so, and companies are starting to pivot a little bit in terms of what they do with sales, with marketing, with learning, with HR, with IT. All of these things are now in the mix. But one of the reflections that I had maybe a couple of years ago was that the SaaS, software as a service market, generally is platform, it's architecture, maybe .NET or some kind of more established architecture where things are built and then they're sold as a platform. And the generative AI space has great potential to disrupt all of that stuff from a couple of different angles. So I wanted to kind of tease out that discussion today. So I guess the first thing is, if we talk about sales and then we talk about software sales and then we talk about platforms and things like that, in the sales space, how much are you seeing AI disrupt what would traditionally be effectively a face-to-face, a handshake, a meeting style function? Because sales has historically always been about that. So how are you seeing AI reshape what we do in sales?
It has completely reshaped everything in sales. I think the most obvious first change, we started seeing that during COVID, I think, because of the fact that, people couldn't be face to face. So we started seeing a lot of Zoom calls, online calls. So basically we're closing deals without ever meeting the person. It was just basically everything done over the internet. And as it has progressed and AI has evolved, I think it's changed everything. I mean, not only on the sales perspective, but the buyer perspective as well. You can see it's such a helpful tool. Basically, you're in a call. You used to have to take notes all throughout the call, some things we're human. At the end of the day, we miss things. And now you just have this agent, this assistant right there that's taking those notes for you. It's flagging what's important, what next steps are, the risks that were brought up during the conversation. So it's making our lives a lot easier, a lot more effective, I think, on the sales rep side.
But I guess that's a little bit when you already have landed a client meeting and you have the capability to use AI agents for meeting minutes and transcripts and things like that. But if you think more widely about sales, we have inbound, outbound, we have top of funnel, we have all the way down to conversion. In terms of a full sales cycle, are you seeing disruption across all of these areas, or is it more in certain parts?
No, absolutely. I mean, everything. And I mean, some good, some not great. You see a lot of the generic AI outreach campaigns to clients, which, I mean, I don't know about you, but I received hundreds of this type of emails that really put off the buyer. But yes, definitely, it allows you to reach a lot more people. So I think it changed the conversation from volume to quality, I think. So I think that's the way it's evolving too. So actually reaching out to a better, more qualified client, it allows for obviously a lot more research when it comes to personalizing that outreach to the client. There's only so many hours in the day, and reaching out to 100 people, one person, it used to be just loads and loads of work, a lot of research. So now we have that done. You can summarize things, even, detect the tone of the client when he replies and predict certain outcomes because of it. So I think throughout the entire sales funnel, it's disrupting all of it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I go back and forth because I get a lot of these, particularly on LinkedIn, not really so much by email, but I get a lot of folks who connect with me, and then they want to sell me whatever it is that they're going to sell me, and message after message after message comes in via LinkedIn. But on the other side of it, email, I don't get much, but I don't really use outreach AI at all. I use it a bit inbound, but I wouldn't say I use it much in terms of outreach, because for my business, most of my clients are coming through. They know me, they've seen me online, or they've seen all of the things that I do. They've maybe read an article, they want help with a specific thing. So it tends to be very much person to person, but I'm not selling SaaS, software as a service. So, or maybe I am. Watch this space. If we move from sales to software sales, because one of the things that I have noticed is, and this is particularly in the either learning or marketing or those kind of content functions, that the platforms that used to be big in those areas are increasingly adopting AI. They're also changing their positioning with respect to some of the big AI platforms. And there is also some disruption around buying cycles, moving from, you used to buy an ERP system, for example, or a CRM, and you'd be locked into a 5 or a 10-year license cycle, versus you want to go buy a content generation tool and ChatGPT or something, and you sign up for a monthly license. Huge difference in how procurement is happening. How are you seeing some of the disruption from the AI market play out in the platform or the software as a service space?
So a lot of interesting things you brought up. I wanted to address a couple of them. When you say that outreach with AI or otherwise, I think it's important that you brought that up, because what we're seeing is not only a change in just sales, but also including marketing. We're seeing this trend where buyers, and I think I read some report, some study saying that I think it's between 70 and 80% of B2B buyers now prefer a sales rep free experience. So they want to, like, the buyer has changed too. They're doing their own research. By the time that you reach out to them, they already know if they're actually in need of your product or need it or have some sort of use for it. They already know who their top players are. They usually have a favorite guy. So it opens up a different conversation. So are we investing in marketing, and has marketing changed as well? It's not, the typical SEM or SEO side of it. Now people are using AI platforms like ChatGPT as we used to use Google. So how are we positioned there versus Google? Are we building that brand and that brand awareness and trust through all these new channels? So it opens a lot of conversation when it comes to that. And in regards to how it's changed specifically with SaaS, yeah, definitely. And I think this will be a trend in the future. It has allowed for dashboards of having actual data. Now you get usage. So you see if a client is actually using your platforms. Let's say, I don't know, you buy into Netflix, for example, or a platform service, and you pay X amount, whether you use it or not, right? So that's the way the SaaS model is right now. But with AI, we're seeing this really good data coming in about usage, about outcomes that have been through your services, right? So now I think that the way the market will shift eventually will be more into kind of a hybrid model. So instead of going, the buyer saying, I'll just sign up for your SaaS for a year-long license or a month license, and this is just this pricing, it will be more of an outcome-based pricing kind of mix. So based on how much you use it, let's say, you have a platform that generates sales for you, or I don't know, meetings for your sales reps. So instead of just, paying 5K monthly for 10 meetings that you got out of it, instead you only pay the 5K if you actually got 100 or 1,000 meetings out of it. So that will take away eventually that risk, that fear that the buyer has. Like, I mean, should I hire this? Should I commit to this for a year or 2 years? Or, the old models of multi-year contracts. And in this case, you just pay a base, a kind of subscription, and then eventually see whether it has added value to you and your company or not, and pay accordingly. So I think it's a win-win situation.
That's interesting, because it changes the market dynamics as well, because it means that a company has to effectively be able to afford the capital or the cash flow to allow that kind of licensing model to happen, which means it becomes a little bit more difficult for startups. to operate without significant capital, and therefore bootstrapped startups will have a much more difficult time in the market if they can't achieve that kind of thing, which I don't know if I approve of that, right? Because market forces should be available, and the best should rise to the top, and it shouldn't just be about how much money you've got in the bank. But it's a difficult one. I'll have to think about that. That's very interesting. But the point you made earlier about marketing and how that is changing, I wanted to ask, because for me, in my business, there's no difference, right? Sales and marketing is just a different point in the funnel. How different are these things really? Because one of the things I have been thinking about is when we have AI capability, we have agent capability, we have workflow capability, it blurs the lines between some of the traditional hierarchies, silos, and structures that we have in organizations. So sales and marketing, could they be one department?
Absolutely. I mean, my personal opinion, I think they should be. I think we're so deeply interrelated and we depend so much on each other that it should be. In reality, I mean, traditional structures as they have been conceived for the past years, what you see is quite the opposite. There's usually, and I'm not saying everywhere, but over 10 years, you see it all, right? What usually happens is this ongoing war between marketing, them saying to the sales guys, look, we sent you 1,000 super well qualified leads. Why aren't you selling? And then the sales guy saying, no, you sent me, they were completely unqualified. They had nothing to do. So it's just back and forth. It usually happens between marketing and sales teams. Should they work together? Absolutely. I mean, that's what should actually happen, because as you said, I mean, even with AI or without AI, we depend on each other. The better qualified leads we get, the more brand awareness we get, the easier our jobs obviously are. So it's obviously marketing affects sales 1,000%.
So that means, I'm just taking this to the nth degree with the way I think, that means that there's probably room in the market for software as a service, that because you currently have CRM systems, and they're separate from content development systems, which marketing use, which is separate again from things like business suites, Meta Business Suite, which operates across Facebook and Instagram, and the CRMs like HubSpot and Salesforce and all of these, the way they operate, they're all siloed systems, which means that at some point they have to come together, and agent workflows that work across sales and marketing also need to come together. So it's more than just the people working together. It's about systems integration and making sure that you have effectively lead continuity from the moment there is outreach all the way through to nurturing, through to conversion. And then the question becomes, where do we stop, right? Because you also need to deliver. So delivery, project management, customer success, account management, all of these things become a continuum. So where does the silo start and where does it end? Do we really need silos anyway? What do you think?
That's a very, very interesting question, and honestly, a great idea. We should mark that down and speak later about creating that. That sounds amazing. Look, the way in my mind, the way it works is, as I said, get sales is amazing, qualified leads, but how does sales get this insight to qualify those leads to begin with, to get this very well-defined buyer persona? So we get that not only, when you do your business model and establish your product, but also by your current clients. So you hear them. So that's when we feed off of our customer service teams, and then they feed our strategy when it comes to sales, because then you really understand what the issues are that your client has and how you can support in solving those issues. So if that at the same time becomes part of your marketing campaigns and how you reach out to these people, I mean, the sales cycles are going to be much closer. The churn rates obviously going to be lower because you're actually listening, and the product is constantly evolving using all of this information, right? And if we have AI, spotting patterns and seeing where this trends and all of these loads of information that for a human being are quite honestly impossible to do by itself, I think that we would have a really powerful tool. So it could change completely the game.
The point that you just made, I was thinking about the two things. So one is sales cycle, the concept of a sales cycle. So some people, if you're watching this and maybe you're not in sales, you're in some other department, HR, learning, any of the other departments that I've touched over the last however many podcasts I've done. But if you're not in one of those departments, the concept of a sales cycle may be something unique. But one of the things that I wanted to ask was what I noticed was when the AI disruption hit, there was a huge lengthening of the sales cycle because businesses didn't really know, what do we do? Are we going to carry on with what we do? Are we going to buy something new? Are we going to wait and see? Do we hire people? Do we hire contractors? Do we stop everything? Do we just pause and see? So lots of things when it comes to recruitment and when it comes to sales cycles were disrupted from this. Do you think we've got back to some kind of new normal now after the AI disruption, or do you think we're still in flux?
I mean, I think it depends on geography, industry. Some, are a little bit more careful about adopting AI. But in general, I see most, at least large enterprises, adopting a lot of more AI within their cycles, whether that's sales or within their own products. You see it, you were talking about CRMs before. I think Salesforce has an embedded AI agent now, and so does HubSpot. So I think that's a trend that we will keep seeing over and over again in general.
Yeah, I think so as well. The other part of what I was going to say, so one is the sales cycle and the client side of sales cycles. I think that's loosening up a little bit as well. But the other point is some of what we're talking about around what you're saying around listening to the customer, delivering on their needs, making sure you deliver that value that matters to them, measuring yourself against the value that matters to your customer. That measure of satisfaction effectively is a metric. It's possibly something that we might bill against in the future rather than having flat licensing fees. And that entire concept that you've outlined is equally applicable. I'm saying equally applicable because, some people who are listening to this are going to be in-house people who have internal stakeholders, whether it's HR, learning, any of these internally focused departments. The principles seem to be something that you could just do internally as well, measure yourself against value and deliver stakeholder value. Some of these lessons seem to be fairly ubiquitous, seem to be the kinds of lessons that every department should take on board. Do you think these things are equally applicable?
Look, no expert in the rest. I've been in sales for very long. I think AI at the end of the day, what it is, it's a tool. So I think it can be used in so many ways. And at the end of the day, it really matters. What really matters, what comes down to it, is it's just how you use it. So you can give it many, many uses. And I've heard people in certain industries or in certain job titles being terrified by AI. It's going to take over our jobs. The general fear, especially in the beginning. There was a lot of it, and then you get the very hopeful, rose-colored lenses kind of people who are like, "Oh my God, it's going to solve. It's the holy grail. It's going to solve everything." And I think it's somewhere in the middle. It's not perfect. Obviously, it is evolving at a ridiculous rate. Like, you keep seeing like what it used to be able to do only a couple of months ago. It's gone up, I don't know how much, but it's just incredible. And how it's being adopted by the world, I think it just pushes you to really have to use it. Like, whether you want it or not, this is the way the world is moving to. This is the new normal. And you just, as humans, it's adapt or die at the end of the day,
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this around the time. It's not exactly the time, but around the time when GPT-5 was launched. And one of the things that I think was unexpected was the withdrawal of GPT-4o. That's no longer around. Where is it? People are looking for it. This used to be my favorite model. Why can't I use this anymore? So there are lots of things that are happening in the space. But what you touch on is it's very important. This idea of challenges and barriers. So we have an AI disruption. We have platforms. Those platforms are AI capable. We have clients who are looking to do more in the AI space because there are valuable reasons to do so. But we don't really know every day. We can predict, but we don't know everything about what the barriers and challenges are in every business. So we have this, and one of the things you touched on is, of course, the fear of change and the human elements of this. But how well do you think, in your experience, the clients that you're working with, how well are they addressing these things? They're probably not solving them, but at least taking steps towards addressing some of the new barriers and the new challenges that we're seeing.
I think there are different different types of clients when it comes to this. Like I said, we get the client that has this realistic sometimes expectations about, and especially when your product, and we're seeing a lot of this in a lot of the SaaS industry, we're incorporating a lot of AI within the product itself, right? It's easier, faster, and it makes adapting and changes a lot faster and easier, right? So a lot of clients think, oh, so now you have AI, basically you can do anything for it with this, right? So it's a little bit of managing expectations when it comes to that. Then there's also the ones who are a little bit more wary, especially regarding privacy laws. And they're scared about their information. How does this work? Why can it predict? Can it access my company's private information? Which is a valid point. So I think that what will become increasingly important for every salesperson in any SaaS company will be AI literacy. So I think we will eventually have to train all of our salespeople in AI so that they can better address all of these impressions from different types of clients. They're valid points on both of them. And we need to have agents that, instead of just focusing on sales qualities, I think the role is it's going to keep evolving, and it will need to be a more about really understanding your product, really becoming a real expert in it, and also using these tools as part of those, getting rid of those repetitive tasks that no longer require your full attention, but focusing on actually closing deals and actually listening to your client. So I think it's a little bit of everything in your question.
Yeah, I agree. I think my reflection on the AI literacy piece is that for me, there are two components, and the EU AI Act has an explicit Article 4, mandate around AI literacy. But there are two components. So component one is general AI literacy, which isn't the same as component two, which is specific to the software that you're actually using. And on the general AI literacy point, shameless plug, I have an AI literacy platform. If you want to know more about AI literacy, contact me at Methodology, and we will sort you out with an AI literacy platform. Right, there we go. So
Absolutely.
I think these components are important, and they're important for two reasons. One is that companies need to have a baseline of AI literacy, but the second is society. As society, we need to be moving along this AI journey in a way that's productive, in a way where we used to talk about literacy being language and numeracy and mathematics, and maybe then we came on information technology, IT. We needed to have literacy in that, and now we need literacy in AI, right? So I think all of these things help the trajectory of society quite well. On the people side, because for me, the technical side is the technical side. You make it works, it happens. You have some controls in place. The people side for me, and one of the reasons I find this so interesting is, and I was doing research on this, which is I came from a hard science background, then I went into statistical modeling of human behavior. And part of my reason for that was it's way more interesting to try and model something that is so chaotic. It has so many variables and it has so many different ways that it could manifest than modeling a chemical reaction where you say, well, we know what the variables are, we know what the ingredients are, temperature, pressure, and all of these things. So there was a difference in how fuzzy this stuff is, really. But on the people side, you've got a lot of interesting things that can happen, and they can happen in different parts of the world in different ways. So we talked a little bit about barriers and challenges. If we move to the opportunity space, because we could talk about how terrible this is, right? But we could also talk about how amazingly wonderful it is. And you said, it's probably somewhere in the middle. So if we move to the opportunity side, we have the opportunity for greatness. These are the most exciting times we've lived in probably throughout my career, where anybody, one guy or girl in a garage, in a shed, in a bedroom somewhere, could code the next billion-dollar company. We don't know, right? So we have opportunities in our space. For you, in what you do with using AI, using sales, thinking about software and platforms, where are the opportunities that excite you the most?
That's a great question. I think it will be mostly in how better you can target high value leads. Also the efficiency side of it. I am a people person. So, while I have learned the hard way how to be organized and, do this routine type of tasks, I think that AI is just it gives you it frees up your time in such an amazing way. It allows you to really automate in the best way. All of this tasks shows you, flags every information that you might have missed. And it's funny because in sales, one thing that really happens when, and if anybody that's listening works in sales, they will note this to be true. You can never take out that human aspect, right? So part of working in sales means working with commissions, right? And when you have a deal that's, about to make you a lot of money, let's say that you've been having this great relationship with this client and you've been working so hard on it for months, and suddenly, he's not answering as he used to, or with the frequency, the communication is, slowly dwindling. But in your mind, us as humans, and especially we see what we want to see at the end of the day. And that finds its way into sales projections as well. Your forecasts are affected by this. So because you don't want to let go and you don't want to see certain things in front of you, you keep taking into consideration these types of deals like, oh no, this is not dead. I will, make it better. I will pull it through instead of just killing it and moving on to the next. And I think that AI will allow us to have a more objective view, detect certain patterns in the forecasting side of it, as well as just, drafting proposals, RFPs, which take a lot of time to answer. So I think it will make us more efficient, and our jobs will be more about focusing on negotiation and actually that human aspect more than those repetitive tasks that we usually waste most of our days in.
I'm going to pick up on a point there that's nothing to do with AI, and I'm gonna go down this road for a second, right? Because
Okay.
we both work in sales. Now, I have a company, so I do end to end. It's more of a consulting model than a sales model. You do sales. Now, I've also been client side, I've been in-house, I've been consulting side, and now I'm, doing what I do. I've got a question that I don't know the answer to, but I have a suspicion that I know the answer to this. And that is that for me, I went consulting in-house, blah, blah, blah. So I've always had this kind of appreciation that things like proposals take time, effort. They're not free, right? There's a cost of sale associated with this. And I have noticed, let's say more recently, that sometimes I get the impression that people who've been in-house for a long time don't fully understand that. And they're happy to look at a proposal, even though they've got no intention of buying it. They just want to figure out, what is it that we need to do? And then they just go off and do it. Or they do it in a way that doesn't really have the expertise behind it, or maybe they want to then go to the market or something. But there's a lack of transparency in that. And, sometimes it's as simple as, can you help me with this thing? Sure, let's arrange a meeting, and just radio silence from there, right? So there's not really a cost to that. That's just rude people. But do you think that people who've never worked in vendor side or consulting side understand that researching proposals, writing proposals, costing them out, this kind of thing, do you think they understand this actually takes time, effort, and money?
To be honest, no. I don't think they do understand just exactly how much time and effort it goes into it. Because, well, you know this. It's not only about we go to a meeting, have a discussion, and I'll draft a quick proposal. It's usually, and especially with long sales cycles or more complex kind of purchases or relationships, you have to go through hundreds of emails, threads, conversations, notes. Remember this specific thing, this tailored, especially when it comes to consultative selling, right? It's very much a tailored proposal. And it's funny that you bring that up, because usually what we get in SaaS, we get it a lot. It's end of the conversation. Okay, so can I get the proposal in an hour? I need to show it to my boss. And it's like, I mean, you could get a general, pricing, because, that's already there. So I can give you an estimate. But if it comes to a tailored proposal that will cover your specific needs, we will need to look into a lot more information and obviously go through all of this huge amount of interactions, right? So yeah. Long story short, no, unfortunately, I don't think they do.
It's a pity, right? Because I used to work with this procurement guy, and he was a great procurement guy. Earl, if you're watching, great procurement guy, right? Now, he was one of the few people in-house who said to me, you know what, if we're going to put an RFP out, we need to be mindful that this does take people's time. So we're only going to put this out if we're good and ready, we got the budget, and it's been signed off and all of this stuff. I've met a couple of other folks in procurement who also take that kind of stance, which is really good. But it's not something that I would say is widely known. So yeah, that was my little rant about that kind of thing. It happens a lot, right? But
It
yeah, if you're
really
watching,
does.
proposals take time. So bear that in mind.
Yep,
Anyway,
exactly.
back to AI, because the next point, of course, is that AI can support with proposal generation. It can support with content generation. It can support with targeting, as you said, making sure that we get all of these needs into something that can be bespoke. So the realities of the situation where somebody says, can I get a bespoke proposal in an hour? We're probably not there yet, but we could be there in the future. I mean, how far do you think we are?
Thinking we're 60% there yet. Um, and this has happened to me even. Drafted a proposal. You have this LLM, right? And you feed this information, go through it, and it generates a proposal. But I have learned to always really, really go through it with, a very detailed eye, because it's not perfect. And this is where expectations, um, you know, we need to manage them when it comes to AI. Still, it could give you a wrong number. So what's the risk there? Imagine, sending out a proposal to a client, giving them a wrong price in an email. And then suddenly the client is like, oh, okay, this is perfect. I approve of this, but turns out it was wrong price, right? So
Yep.
we have to be still very, very mindful of how we use it. Really, AI is great, but the human component of it, we really need to stay on top of it and double check it and train it so that it can actually work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've got two perspectives on this. So the first perspective is that I will talk out my ideas verbally. Or I'll just talk using a voice agent, right? I have voice agents in my business, and I'll talk out the idea. And I'll say, well, this is the cadence. This is what I think. This is what I want the proposal to look like. These are the order of things that I'm going to do. These are the key aspects that I need to consider, and this is the discovery that needs to happen. This is the data that we need. These are the technologies we're going to use. The whole thing, flesh it out to that level of detail, script it, but then, so that's one side of it. That's the thinking side. Of course, commercials need to be done separately. But the other side of it is the tactics of things like slide generation. I've not yet come across any AI tool. Microsoft, if you're watching, get your act together, right? I've not come across any AI tool that will make a PowerPoint deck which isn't just a list of bullet points on a page. When you do a consulting deck, when you do a proposal deck that's for a software company, you'll have some graphics, you'll have some, models, frameworks, maybe you'll have some screenshots. You can draw those from somewhere. All of that can be done, but it needs to be done manually. And I'm so surprised that even now, 3 years on, we haven't found an adequate replacement for people and PowerPoint. What's going on there? Have you found anything?
I haven't. I have seen though I have received. Let me correct myself. Some emails pitching apparently, and I remember this because I skimmed through it, and he said something. It said something along the lines of PowerPoint is dead, AI takes over. So those big kind of statements that, like I said before, immediately just makes you recoil. Like, come on. I mean, great intro, but we'll
Yeah.
see. I'm open to it. I'm hopeful for it. We'll see.
I mean, I've seen these on LinkedIn as well. I've seen, PowerPoint is dead, RIP PowerPoint, 2025 or whatever it is. And
There you go.
I will look at the list of tools, and it's all the same tools. It's, Copilot and Gamma and, no, they're just not good enough. They don't do what needs to be done. So yeah, if you're watching, there's a gap in the market, go fill it. Make me a PowerPoint AI, somebody. that's better than what we can currently use. So we've covered barriers, challenges, we've covered opportunities. There's a little bit around expectations as well, because one of the things that I find in the market is when I'm having that initial call, whether it's a consultation call, whether it's a consultancy call, or whether it's something that is product or project focused, there are a couple of expectations in the market. And one of them is, can I just get some free advice, please, on AI? And then part of that is, well, no, this is what I do for a living, so you can pay me. But the cheeky, but but the other side of it is there's an expectation. And sometimes the expectation is, if I have this thing I call magic, let's call it can be called AI, it can be called magic, it can be called pretty much anything. We've got this magic thing, and it's going to fix all of my problems immediately. And I can just click a button, because everything I've seen online says that I need no coding experience. I need no skills. I need no prior knowledge. And I can just click a button and pick it up and everything will work magically. And suddenly I will be able to do all of the things that I dreamed of without any effort at all. And to me, certainly at my tender age, I've never experienced anything in my life where you didn't need to put any effort in and it was worth doing. So we have this side of the expectation, but on the other side, we have this expectation that we're going to save a lot of money in our company by putting in AI. And therefore, the cost that we want to put into this is nothing. We don't have a budget. We've got zero budget. We're going to put in this much money and expect to get this many savings out. So I think there are a couple of misaligned expectations in the market out there. What are you seeing in terms of the expectation side of things?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. I think that there are really high expectations, as you said, cutting costs, and then AI being some sort of holy grail that allows a person like me with zero coding experience, no, engineering background, be able to code some sort of automated sales cycle in 5 minutes for ChatGPT. It's a lot more than that. I've had clients say, "Oh, I could have done that using ChatGPT. I almost did the other day." I'm like, "Well, that's amazing. Show me." But it's a lot of unrealistic expectations on one end, and um, while it does most definitely can cut costs of certain things, I don't think that it's yet in that stage to be, cutting off completely things that companies use to run correctly at this point. So I think it will eventually be more of a hybrid model. Yes, a lot of more usage when it comes to AI, a lot of tasks being given to AI, but the human monitoring of these actions will always be needed. The tool training, the actual human interaction side of it. I mean, it's just you will always need it, in my opinion.
I think for me, you can do a lot of things now which mean you reduce the reliance on humans for certain tasks, for certain activities. But that does require investment in the traditional software cycle. You need to test things, you need to pilot things, you need to make sure they're production ready, you need to go through, production scale, DevOps, all of these things that you would traditionally do. You need to have one eye on security, you need to be thinking about governance. Traditional software cycle applies, which means traditional money applies. And not only money, but timescales and project management and effort and all of these things that come with software, right? So I think you can get really great benefits, but it's unlikely that those benefits are going to come from, a small scale couple of weeks pilot, because let's face it, you wouldn't expect that with software. You wouldn't expect that with change management. You wouldn't expect it with coaching. Why would you expect it with AI? It seems like a paradox to me, right?
Completely.
There it is. Yeah. Everything. If you're watching this, everything worthwhile takes time, effort, and money. There's the lesson.
Absolutely.
So that's the wisdom of age, I think. I don't think I would have thought this when I was 20, but now I do. There you go. I've grown up, maybe. No, I'll never admit that, just in case anybody's watching.
We're trying to.
Yes. So with all of this stuff, good and bad, we've got disruption and we're coping with disruption. The future it's not something, we don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell the future, but we have hopes and we have dreams, we have ambitions, we have a journey we want to go down. What do you think of the future? Do you have a journey? You have particular ambitions? Do you think it's going to, and not just in sales or software, but for society maybe? Where do you think it's going to go?
Related to AI, you mean?
Yeah, the AI disruption.
I am hoping for it to be used in an ethical way. I hope that it will actually bring positive changes, that it will give access to communities that have been forgotten by traditional models, industries, geographies, you call it whatever. I think it could become that one thing that gives equal opportunities, that allows, let's say, access to healthcare. That would be amazing, like AI in healthcare. I know it's a little bit out there, but you know what? It could education, like some places don't have access to traditional education. It could become a great way to bring that to people, bring information to everybody. So I'm hopeful. I remain a little bit skeptic, because when humans are involved, things tend to, not always go in the best way, but I am hopeful. I mean, for every bad apple, there are 10 good ones. So let's hope that it goes the right way for everybody.
Nice. I like it. I think I kind of agree, but I think there are going to be time effects. So short term, we're going to see a lot of jobs go, and we're not going to see them easily be replaced. So we're going to have quite a few short-term shocks. Medium term, we're going to see the evolution of different skill sets, different roles as human and AI architectures work together effectively. And then longer term, we're going to need to see some societal shifts and some societal changes. We start to cope with things like the reduction in jobs, generally speaking, from some of the disruptions that we're having today. So I can see there are going to be time effects as we go, but it's exciting times. And I think the journey ahead of us is going to be fun. Let's ride it out. Let's see where it goes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Maria, it's been amazing to have you on this session the last hour. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Ashwin. It really has been a pleasure.
If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you are watching this on Spotify, follow. You can find us on Instagram. You can find us TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and of course, LinkedIn. We'll be posting reels from not only this podcast, but all of the other podcasts as well. So don't forget to follow. And Maria's details will also be in the comments, in the chat, and tagged on all the different platforms. So you can follow her and follow her career as well. Thank you so much. See you next time.
Thank you.